What would you choose? Subscribe. Let's talk about it.
See, and what you gotta understand is Gen Z men leaning MGTOW as a whole was inevitable, okay? We watched our fathers, our grandfathers, our uncles, our older brothers, our older cousins, just our friends all get used and manipulated and played and cheated on and divorced and put on child support and get their kids taken away from them in 3, 4, 5 different marriages and relationships, get kicked out of the girlfriend's house when they tried to live with the woman. We watched all this shit play out. A lot of us were those kids getting taken away from our fathers. A lot of us were those kids with a simp father, okay? A lot of us were those kids who our mother may have had money from her mom to sue the shit out of our dad, okay? A lot of us saw this over and over and over again. So us not taking women serious as a whole was inevitable, all right? I don't know why everybody's acting surprised when, I mean, we literally are just paying attention. And then on top of that, that's why everything blew up the way it did, because we were craving masculinity.
Everyone is surprised because they discredited men so much. You didn't think we had a brain. You didn't think that we would pay attention to these things and make informed decisions, understanding that it's all science. It's all a scientific method. Input X, get Y. Input X, get Y. For generations, men accepted that role of saying, yes, I'm going to provide and I'm going to get whatever I get. I'm going to sacrifice, I'm going to suffer, and I'm just going to call this a man's role. This is what my life was supposed to be about. It was only a matter of time before someone said, I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that type of existence. And when men in mass started to balk and started saying, you know what, that doesn't really sound like a good, fair existence. Then the rug dropped out, the floor dropped out, and those men that were doing the sacrifice, at the very least, they could hold their hat and say, look at the family I created. Look at the joy I get from that. And then the truth started becoming revealed. Well, people out here having kids for men that do a hell of a lot less. People are raising kids that turn out not to be theirs, and then still being shamed for them just being men. Eventually, this is what we call the law of unintended consequences. This was bound to happen. The minute the internet became a thing and we all became interconnected, all it did is supercharge the process that was filtering down from generations. You just look at the data, you look at the marriage rate, and you look at how that starts to drop. Yes, there's things that go into that in the economy, but one of the biggest reasons today why young men, Gen Z, are saying, I don't want any parts of this, because they're looking and saying, what do I get for it? It's not a selfish question. It's not an unreasonable question. They're looking and saying, for that amount of effort, for that amount of sacrifice, which I may be willing to do, what am I supposed to get from it? We are not the generations before us. We're not the men and women of yesteryear. We're not looking, we don't carry ourselves that way. We're not in a traditional society. So trying to offer those traditional things doesn't make sense. When we talk about, hey, I can cook, I can clean, I can do all these domestic things. When men are living by themselves, they have to do those things, or they have to find ways around those things, and they're viable solutions. Many men cook, many men can clean. These are not things that are specifically feminine. When you live by yourself long enough, you know how to do these things. If you had a mother or father, they already gave you chores. You know how to do these things. Or at the very least, you know you can hire those things out. You just know you have to make enough money. If you can live that same sort of lifestyle by yourself, you don't really need a woman in that house with you. And to be fair, this is game taken directly from women's lips. Women are constantly saying this. Yo, I don't need a man. I can do all these things. I pay my own bills. I don't need you. I don't want to live with you. Why does it sting when you hear it from the other end? Because you know this signals the end of the game. This game that we've been fencing, we've been volleying back and forth forever, in time immemorial. You know this signals the end of the game. This game was predicated on men wanting to be with women long term. Men wanting to be married to women. When women get on here and say, yo, I'm done dating. I don't even want to be married. I did that, been there, done that. Okay, cool. Nothing changes. For the rest of us in the dating game, absolutely nothing changes. You just moved on with your life. When you see people like Melissa Ford going on and giving their commentary of this, or I used to do this is what I want. Cool, that's a good snippet. That's a good buzz. But no one cares. You've aged out the game. No one cares. You want to pull yourself out the dating game? No one cares. There's still so many more participants. But what happens when the fundamental game itself changes? Because men Gen Z men are saying, I'm not playing. I'm not playing. That's not saying that I'm giving up women. They're still saying, I understand, I don't have to go all the way. I don't have to invite you into my life. I don't have to marry you. I don't have to over leverage myself to be with you in order to be with you. If you're making sex seem like a thing that is just available, you're willing to trade it for funds, you're willing to trade it for dates, you're willing to trade it for attention, or sometimes you're willing to trade it because you really just like that guy. They've been paying attention to all of it, and they say, the best that I can hope for is to be that guy, or just leave me alone. When you constantly shame men for their hobbies, for the lack of hobbies, for what they like to do, what they don't like to do, you get to a point where men get into a corner and they say, this is the only moves I have available to me. And then they remember that last one. You flip the board and you say, I'm going home. Going home. I'm picking my ball. I'm going home. I don't want to do this. You call it fatigue. Right? There's a lot more of that conversation that's starting when men are just saying, I'm kind of fatigued. I'm tired of opening up the app. I'm tired of getting in these groups and hearing these conversations about how awful men are in dating, with zero accountability being afforded from the other side. You build, okay, we're at this, we made a dating event. No men showed up. We're in church. We're dating event in church. No men showed up. You cannot ignore the other part of the conversation. When you constantly dog men out and you see them disappearing from society in which you still want them to participate in. It's not to say that they're gone, they're jumping off a cliff somewhere. No, they're just doing their own thing. Where are the good men? Doing their own thing. They know they don't have to show up. They don't have to participate. They don't have to be performative in this sort of way you want them to. A lot of women just want men to say they have that man, to say they have that type of quality man. And then when they get them, they'll quietly disappear from the internet. They won't share them. They won't show them because they understand that other women want that man. If that man passed your high sets of standards, he'll pass theirs. And some women understand, I'm not giving him the best package he could probably get. If he understood the game that's being played, if he understood the sheer quantity, if he had an abundant mindset, he'd understand, I don't have to participate in this really. You don't emit the standards that I should have for myself. We act and pretend like women are the only ones that suffer from low self-esteem, from low understanding about themselves. When men finally grasp themselves, when men level set themselves, they realize, what was I doing? I was settling. Or, like a lot of Gen Z is deciding now, I don't want to play it like this. I see how it is. I see how people's moving, and I want no parts of this game. And I say, salute to them. But if you disagree, let me know down in the comments below. If you see other videos on your screen, check those out. Let me know your thoughts about those in those videos. And of course, if you listen to my voice now, you have not subscribed, I think you should. Trying to build something dope. I'll see you in the next one.